My wife didn't book a hotel room for me during her reunion trip. One of her friends whispered loudly, "He'll sleep in the car, right?" I looked around and said, "Guess I'll let you all enjoy this alone." Hours later, when the front desk screamed my name, everyone went silent. You ever get that gnawing feeling in your chest where something feels off, but you can't quite put your finger on it? That was me for the better part of a year before Charleston. We'd been together 12 years. Marley and I met in college. She was studying communications. I was deep in the IT department, mostly keeping my head down and trying to get through without going broke. She had this way about her that pulled you in. She'd be in a room with 20 people, and somehow, she'd make you feel like you were the only one she noticed. She was sharp, driven, always had plans, big ones. I think that's what made me fall for her. I didn't have plans. I had goals, sure, but not the kind that came with vision boards and color-coded planners. When we got married, it was small, just a courthouse and some friends. We promised ourselves we'd do a big honeymoon someday, once we were more stable. We never did. Life moved fast. She got an HR job with a growing tech firm. I ended up in network security. We bought a modest house in Raleigh. We had a dog, Socks, a mutt who had no sense of personal space but was loyal as hell. We didn't have kids. We said we'd wait until the time felt right. That time never really came either. Things changed slowly, as they tend to. You don't wake up one morning and realize your marriage is cold. It happens like a slow leak in a tire, quiet, barely noticeable, until you're riding on rims wondering how the hell you got here. So when Marley brought up the reunion, I saw it as a chance. A chance to maybe inject something back into us. To spend a weekend not talking about bills or work or who forgot to take out the trash. Just us, somewhere different. Charleston seemed perfect. Walkable, scenic, and warm. She mentioned a few names I didn't recognize, said it'd be mostly casual, just old friends meeting up. "You sure you want me there?" I asked one night while she was on her laptop. "Sounds like it's more your thing." She looked up briefly, typing still. "Of course, if you want to come." She said it with a smile. Not a warm one, though. Not a smile that reaches the eyes. I booked time off work, packed light, and drove the 3.5 hours down on a Friday. She rode with me, barely talking unless she was scrolling on her phone or laughing at some text. "You excited?" I asked at one point. "Yeah," she said. "Just nervous. It's been a long time." She didn't ask if I was excited. We pulled up to the Wyndham Grand just before sunset. Beautiful place, brick and glass, palm trees swaying. I parked out front while Marley hopped out and disappeared into the lobby, chattering on her phone. I stayed back to handle the bags. 2 suitcases, both packed with more of her things than mine. I figured we'd check in, get a drink somewhere nearby, and unwind. When I got to the front desk, the woman behind it smiled politely. "Checking in." "Yeah, Marley Bennett." She typed. "Yes, we have a reservation. 1 king room." I waited for her to continue. She didn't. "And?" I asked. She blinked. "It's for 1 guest." I looked over my shoulder like maybe this was a prank and someone was filming. That can't be right. My wife and I are both staying. "I'm sorry," she said. "Only 1 guest was booked." So I text Marley. "Me? They say it's only a 1-person room?" No response. I stood there, phone in hand, feeling more like a third wheel in my own life than ever before. "Can I add myself to the room?" I asked the clerk. "Normally, yes," she replied. "But the room is already occupied now, and it's part of a block reservation through a group code. We need the original guest to authorize it." That stung. I grabbed my bag and walked toward the bar area, hoping to find her and get this sorted. And that's when I heard it. Like something out of a bad sitcom, I heard one of her friends, tall redhead, voice like nails on glass, say loud enough for me and the bartender to hear, "He'll sleep in the car, right?" Followed by laughter. Not the kind that's shared among friends. The kind you feel in your stomach. The kind that tells you people have already written you off. I didn't say anything at first. Just sat down at the bar, ordered a whiskey neat, and tried to pretend I didn't hear it. Tried to ignore the looks. But I couldn't. I got up, walked straight into the middle of their little group, and said, calm as I could, "Guess I'll let you all enjoy this alone." Every conversation in that space died mid-sentence. Marley turned toward me like she wasn't expecting to see me standing there. "What are you doing?" she asked, a little drunk, a little confused. "You didn't book me a room," I said. "I thought you were just driving me down," she said with a shrug. "I brought a suitcase. I figured you'd get your own room." "Why the hell would I do that?" "I don't know," she said, brushing her hair back, glancing at her friends. "I didn't think it'd be a big deal. You didn't think inviting me meant including me? Don't make this a scene. You already did." And then I walked out. No plan. Just air. I didn't have the car, the keys were with valet, and Marley had them. My phone was dying. I didn't know anyone here. I just started walking. The kind of walking that's not meant to get anywhere, just to keep your legs moving so your thoughts don't consume you. I ended up at the water, staring out into the harbor, thinking about nothing and everything. My phone buzzed. It was Rowan. Rowan, still married. I told him what happened. He replied with, "She sounds like she's playing games." Me? This wasn't a game. "Rowan. Yeah, well. Some people don't know they're already losing. By the time I got back to the hotel lobby, I didn't care anymore about the room or the reunion. I was ready to get a cab, find a cheap motel outside town, and forget I ever thought this weekend could save anything. That's when I heard it. "Mr. Bennett," a voice called out across the room. Loud, clear, confident. "Mr. Bennett?" Everyone looked up. I turned and saw a guy behind the front desk waving a keycard in the air. "You've been upgraded. Presidential suite. Hotel's compliments." "What?" "Manager's request. Someone posted about how you were treated. Went a bit viral. They wanted to make it right." I took the card. The eyes in the room were on me. Marley stood frozen near the elevators, glass in hand, eyes wide. I looked right at her and said, "Guess I'm not sleeping in the car after all." And I walked upstairs to the nicest room I'd ever seen in my life, alone. The suite was unreal. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Cooper River, marble floors, plush furniture I didn't want to touch because it looked like it cost more than my car. There were 2 complimentary bottles of wine and a fruit tray I had no appetite for. I sat down on the leather armchair by the window and just breathed. You don't realize how much stress you're carrying until you're in a room where no one expects you to speak or smile or perform. It was the first time in months, maybe years, I felt alone but not lonely. I stared out at the lights of Charleston for a long time. My phone buzzed every now and then, but I ignored it. Mostly texts from Marley. A couple from a number I didn't recognize, probably one of her friends trying to do damage control. One of Marley's texts read, "We need to talk. I didn't mean to make you feel left out. This wasn't supposed to be like this." That last one got me, because it was exactly like this. This wasn't new. It was just the most public version of what had been happening in private for a long time. About an hour later, someone knocked on the door. I didn't move at first. Let them knock. Then it came again, soft, but persistent. I opened the door, and there she was, barefoot, still in that green dress she wore to dinner, mascara smudged slightly under her eyes. "Can I come in?" she asked. I stepped aside. She walked in slowly, looked around like she was touring a museum, then finally turned to face me. "I didn't know the hotel would do all this." I didn't say anything. "I didn't think you'd be so upset." That got a laugh out of me, dry and bitter. "You invited me on this trip and didn't book me a room. You stood there while your friends made jokes about me sleeping in the damn car. And I'm not supposed to be upset." She looked away, arms folded. "I didn't know they said that." "Oh, come on. You were right there. You heard it." She sighed. "It was stupid. They were drinking. It wasn't personal." It sure felt personal. We stood in silence, the air between us thick with everything we weren't saying. "You know what the worst part is?" I said. "It's not the room. It's not even the joke. It's realizing you didn't want me here." "Not really." "That's not true." "It is. You didn't think twice about leaving me out. And when I showed up, it was like I was crashing your party." Marley sat on the edge of the bed, fidgeting with the hem of her dress. "I just wanted one weekend where I didn't have to explain us." I leaned against the wall. "Explain what exactly?" She didn't answer right away. Just looked down at the carpet. "When did it get this bad?" she whispered. I didn't know how to answer that. It wasn't one thing. It was 1,000 small things. "You stopped talking to me," I said. "Stopped laughing with me. You'd come home, we'd eat dinner, sit on the couch, scroll our phones, and go to bed. That's not a marriage." "We're tired, Grant," she said. "We've both been tired for a long time." I hadn't heard her use my name like that in weeks. "I thought maybe if we got away, if we did something fun, we'd feel normal again," I said. She shook her head. "I didn't want normal. I wanted a break." I flinched. That one landed. From me. From everything. There it was. Honest. Be our towel. But honest. "So why didn't you say that?" "Because I didn't want to hurt you." I gave her a look. "Well, mission failed." Her eyes welled up, but she blinked it back. "Marley never cried easily. I miss us too, you know," she said. "I just don't know how to get back." I didn't either. "I should probably go," she said quietly, standing. "Yeah," I replied, walking her to the door. She paused with her hand on the knob. "You staying the weekend?" I shrugged. "Not sure yet." She opened the door, then looked back. "Let me know." And she was gone. I sat down again. The room felt different now. Colder. Quieter. I picked up my phone, scrolled through old photos of us. Vacations, holidays, a few blurry selfies. We looked happy. But that's the thing about photos, they lie. I checked the time. Almost midnight. I texted Rowan. "Me. You were right. She's been gone a while. I just didn't want to see it." He replied instantly. "Rowan, people don't leave all at once. They drift. You finally stopped pretending not to notice." I didn't sleep much that night. I watched the lights outside until they faded into sunrise. My mind kept replaying that look on her face, the one that wasn't guilt or anger, but exhaustion. Like we'd both been treading water for so long we forgot what land looked like. The next morning, I went down for breakfast. The staff treated me like royalty. Free omelet bar, fresh squeezed juice, the works. One of Marley's friends passed me near the elevator and gave a tight-lipped smile. I ignored it. I walked to the harbor again after that. Needed air. Clarity. As I stood by the rail, Someone tapped my shoulder. It was Tyson. Yeah, that Tyson. Marley's high school ex. Grant, right? He said, extending a hand. I stared at it. Sure. He smiled, overly casual. Didn't mean to bother you. Just saw you out here and figured I'd say hey. What do you want? He paused. Look, I know things are complicated with Marley right now. I didn't answer. Just waited. I just want you to know, I'm not trying to step on anything. My jaw clenched. Funny. I don't remember asking. He raised his hands. Hey, just being straight with you. I stepped forward. Let me be straight with you. I don't care who you used to be to her. But if you're part of whatever's been going on lately, then maybe you already crossed the line. He looked like he wanted to say something, then thought better of it. Okay, he said, backing off. Take care, man. And he walked off. I stood there, heart pounding. Not because of him, but because I knew. The pieces were falling into place. The texts Marley smiled at during the drive. The way she brushed off my being there. The distance. All of it. I wasn't crazy. I just didn't want to believe what I already knew. I stood by the rail a while after Tyson walked off, trying to convince myself I hadn't just imagined all of it. The subtext in his tone, the cocky half-smile, the unnecessary clarification. People don't usually come out of nowhere to make things clear unless there's something to make clear. I didn't want to go back to the hotel. The suite, for all its luxury, felt hollow now, like it belonged to someone else. Someone whose life didn't just crack open in the middle of a humid Charleston morning. Instead, I wandered, took the long route through the historic district, past groups of tourists snapping photos, couples laughing over brunch, college kids skateboarding past shops too expensive for them to enter. Life kept moving. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Marley. Marley, can we talk? Just for a minute. I ignored it. Not out of spite. I just didn't know what I'd say anymore. What was left to say when someone slowly empties your home of warmth, but leaves all the furniture so you don't notice until you sit down one day and realize everything feels cold? I ducked into a quiet little cafe, grabbed a black coffee, and found a seat near the back. The hum of conversation around me was oddly comforting, like white noise for heartbreak. It wasn't long before I heard the front door open and close, and there she was. Marley. She looked tired. Hair pulled up, sunglasses pushed up onto her head, wearing the oversized shirt she slept in sometimes when she didn't feel like trying. She didn't see me right away. Her eyes scanned, found me, and she made her way over without hesitation. I didn't move, didn't say anything. She sat across from me. You blocked me. No, I said. I just didn't want to talk. There's a difference. She swallowed hard. I deserve that. I stared into my coffee. Do you want something, or are you just making rounds? I didn't know Tyson would be here, she said quickly, like she'd rehearsed it. Really? I replied, finally meeting her eyes. Because he knew I was here. She didn't respond right away. Did something happen with you too? I asked flatly. No, she said, too fast. I raised an eyebrow. Okay, we talked, she admitted. We texted. But it wasn't. I held up a hand. Let's not do that. She looked down at the table. I'm not an idiot, Marley, I said. I've been ignoring signs for a long time. Hell, maybe because I didn't want to believe that you'd let it get to this point. But I think I always knew. I didn't cheat, she said quietly. Emotional affairs count too, I replied. She flinched, but didn't deny it. It wasn't about him, she whispered. It was about me. About feeling like I was someone again. Someone interesting. You didn't feel interesting with me? I didn't feel seen with you, she snapped, then softened. I know that sounds cruel, but it's the truth. We stopped seeing each other. I stopped feeling like myself. And then he messaged one day, and it was like remembering who I used to be. You mean before the mortgage and the bills and the dog hair on everything? Yes, she said. Exactly that. I let out a bitter laugh. You know what's wild? I came here hoping we'd reconnect. I actually thought this weekend might bring us closer. She looked like she might cry, but held it in. I don't hate you, I said after a pause. But I'm not sure I can forgive you either. We sat there a while longer. The weight between us too heavy for words. Finally, she said, I'm heading back with the girls tomorrow morning. I nodded. You staying? Probably not. She stood slowly. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did, I replied. Over and over. Not in one big blow, but in paper cuts. Quietly. Daily. She stood there like she was waiting for me to say more. I didn't. She left. I stayed. That night, I didn't go back to the hotel right away. I walked the entire Battery path. Past the mansions. Past the trees dripping Spanish moss. Past other couples holding hands and laughing in a way that used to be us. A way that probably never would be again. When I finally got back to the suite, the air was thick and stale. I showered, stood under the water until it ran cold, then laid on the bed staring at the ceiling. No TV, no music, just silence. The next morning, a knock woke me up. Room service. I hadn't ordered anything. I opened the door and found a tray with a note tucked into the silver lid. Thought you might not feel like being around people. From the staff. Hope your stay is better today. Under the lid, pancakes, eggs, bacon, everything I would have ordered. It almost made me laugh. I ate in silence. watching the early light hit the buildings. I had no plans. No reason to rush back to Raleigh. And yet, I'd never felt more out of place. Marley texted again mid-morning. Marley, leaving soon. Just wanted to say I hope you find what you're looking for. I didn't reply, because for the first time in a long while, I wasn't sure what that even was. I didn't leave Charleston that morning. I told myself it was because I needed a break. Time to think. To breathe. But deep down, I think I stayed because I didn't know where to go. Back home. Back to the same bed she used to lie in, half turned away from me. Back to pretending like we were still trying. I spent the day walking the cobblestone streets, keeping my head down, taking pictures on my phone like I was a tourist. There was something comforting about being invisible. People walked past me, talked over me, didn't ask questions. I wasn't Grant Bennett, the guy whose wife forgot to include him. I was just another face passing through. I ended up at a small bookshop near the college district. The smell of old paper and coffee was familiar. It reminded me of when Marley and I used to spend Sundays browsing, pretending like we were looking for new reads when really, we just liked the quiet. I sat in a leather chair by the back window, flipping through a travel journal I wasn't going to buy. The window overlooked a narrow alley where ivy crept up old brick, and for a moment, it felt like I had stepped out of my life completely. Then my phone rang. Rowan. I answered with a quiet, "Yeah? You still down there?" he asked. "Yup." Did she finally fess up? Not in so many words. He paused. "But you know." "I know." There was another silence. "You coming back?" I didn't answer. He sighed. "You want me to come get you?" "No. I just need a minute." "Take your time," he said. "But don't stay lost." I hung up and sat in that bookstore until the light changed. When I finally walked outside, dusk had settled in and I realized I hadn't eaten all day. I found a hole-in-the-wall diner. It was nearly empty except for two waitresses and a couple of older guys playing cards in the back. I slid into a booth and ordered a burger and fries because it felt like something solid. Something that reminded me of when things were simpler. While I waited, I saw a couple come in, late 20s maybe. She was wearing an oversized flannel and he had a hand on the small of her back. They sat across from each other and leaned in when they talked, like the world outside their booth didn't matter. And I realized I used to look at Marley that way. The food came. I ate slowly. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Unknown. "Hey Grant. It's Kendra. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry about the other night. We were being stupid. You didn't deserve that." I stared at the message for a long moment. Kendra. The one who made the car comment. I didn't reply, but I didn't delete it either. Later that night, back in the suite, I finally started packing. Not because I was ready to go, just because I needed to feel like I had some kind of plan. While folding my shirts, I found the small bottle of cologne Marley gave me on our 5th anniversary. I hadn't worn it in months. I brought it out of habit, I guess. I uncapped it and inhaled. It still smelled like hope. I laughed bitterly and tossed it into the trash. I was nearly done packing when there was another knock on the door. This time, I hesitated. My hand hovered over the handle. I opened it. It wasn't Marley. It was Tyson. Again. He stood there in a navy hoodie, hands in his pockets like a teenager caught sneaking in past curfew. "What do you want?" I asked, not hiding the edge in my voice. "I'm not here to start anything," he said quickly. "You already did." He raised his hands. "Okay. Fair. Look, Marley told me she talked to you. I figured I should do the same. I don't want to hear it." "I know you don't," he said. "But I'm going to say it anyway. Nothing happened while you two were still really together. We didn't sleep together. We didn't." I stepped out into the hallway and closed the door behind me. "Stop. You don't owe me your version." He nodded. "Maybe not. But I owe you the truth. Whatever was going on between you two, she was falling apart before I ever showed up." I narrowed my eyes. "You think that makes you noble?" "No," he said quietly. "I think it makes me part of the problem." We stood there in silence. "I loved her once," he added. "Back when we were kids. And when she reached out, I didn't think. I just answered. I didn't ask myself if it was right. I just wanted to be needed again. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't expecting honesty. I'm not the villain in this," he continued. "And you're not the victim either." That pissed me off. "You come here and say that to my face?" "I came here because Marley's not okay. And I don't think you are either." I clenched my jaw. "You don't get to tell me how I feel." He held up his hands again. "I'll go. Just wanted you to know where I stand." And just like that, he walked off. No dramatics. No smug smile this time. I didn't sleep much that night either. Just laid in bed, thinking about what he said. Not the part about Marley. The part about me. Because deep down, I knew he was right. I wasn't okay. I hadn't been for a long time. But I also wasn't ready to admit that out loud. Not yet. By the time I checked out of the hotel, Charleston felt like a city I'd wandered into during the worst week of my life and somehow walked out of as someone else. I didn't go home right away. I stopped in Nashville for a few days. Rowan let me crash in the guest room above his garage. It smelled like old cedar and gun oil, but it was quiet. Peaceful. He didn't ask too many questions. Just slid a beer across the counter one night and said, "You always knew, didn't you?" I nodded. "Yeah. You just hoped it'd fix itself. Or that I was imagining it." He sipped his drink. People like Marley don't wake up and cheat out of nowhere. She left the room a long time ago. You just didn't want to admit you were alone. He wasn't wrong. It took another 2 weeks before I officially moved out of the house. Marley texted once or twice. Nothing dramatic. Just logistics. She never apologized again. Never fought to fix it. Just let things dissolve like old glue. I found a small condo not far from downtown Raleigh. It was nothing fancy. Exposed brick, some outdated cabinets. But it was mine. I filled it with things I actually liked. I put up the photographs I'd taken over the years, finally framed a few. I even bought that stupid espresso machine I always wanted, but never got, because Marley thought it took up too much counter space. And then, something changed. I started talking again. Not just to Rowan, but to people. Real conversations. I signed up for a weekend photography course. Started going to open mic nights. Not to perform, but just to listen. I met people who didn't know me as Marley's husband. They just knew me as Grant. It felt like breathing again after being underwater for years. Then came the reunion aftermath. Apparently, one of Marley's friends, someone I barely remembered, posted a recap of the Charleston trip in a private Facebook group. It got leaked. The part about me getting left out of the hotel room? That spread like wildfire. People I hadn't talked to in years started messaging me. Some were just curious. Others, supportive. A week later, I got a call from an old college friend, Darian. He worked in HR consulting and had once been on the same leadership panel as Marley. We hadn't talked in ages. I heard about Charleston, he said. That was rough. Yeah, understatement. Listen, he continued. I know this is random, but do you mind if I send you something? Sure. An hour later, he emailed me a link. It was a job posting. At Marley's company. They were hiring a senior network security analyst, my exact specialty. Just saying, he texted. Be poetic if someone competent actually applied. I stared at the listing for a long time. Then I updated my resume. I didn't need the job. I was happy freelancing, consulting here and there. But something about it stirred something deep in me. Not pettiness, just curiosity. I applied under my full name. Made sure the application was clean, professional, and impossible to ignore. 2 weeks later, I got a call from a hiring manager. 3 interviews after that, I got the offer. I accepted. And then I waited. My start date was a Monday. I walked in dressed sharp, navy blazer, pressed slacks, fresh haircut. I knew Marley didn't work on the tech side. She was in talent management, mostly doing culture and leadership training. But we'd be in the same building. Sure enough, by Wednesday, I saw her in the elevator. She blinked like she'd seen a ghost. Grant, she said, stunned. Morning. I nodded politely. You work here? Apparently so, I smiled. Small world. She looked like she wanted to say more, but the elevator dinged, and I stepped out. I didn't rub it in. I didn't go out of my way to bump into her or flaunt anything. I just did my job, and I did it well. My team liked me. Leadership liked me more. It took 3 months before the real twist came. Darian had looped me into a leadership pilot program, the same one Marley had been in charge of. I was invited to a retreat workshop she was facilitating. She didn't know until she walked into the room and saw my name on the participant list. Her voice faltered during the intro. Just a little. Just enough for people to notice. We broke into small groups later that day, and someone asked me how I liked the company. It's great, I said casually. Some of the culture stuff could use a little fresh perspective, though. They all laughed. Marley didn't. After the retreat, she emailed me. Marley. Was that intentional? Me. Was what? Marley. Joining the program. Showing up like that. Me. Nope. I just go where the work takes me. Marley. This is embarrassing. Me. You mean being reminded of what you gave up? She didn't respond. I didn't expect her to. A few weeks later, word got around that Marley had requested a transfer to a different office. I didn't gloat, but I did smile. Not because I hurt her, because I didn't have to. The truth did all the work. And me? I was good. I was more than good. I had a job I liked. I had a quiet condo. I had peace. I had the freedom to wake up in the morning and know that no one was slowly emptying the room around me anymore. One morning, as I stood in my kitchen with that espresso machine hissing, I looked out the window and thought, this is the revenge. Not the email. Not the retreat. The life after. One she doesn't get to be part of anymore. And the funny thing? I don't even miss her. Not one bit.